Spend some time with me while I indulge in a new cast on. Thanks Squarespace for sponsoring this video. Hey guys, welcome here. If you're new here, my name's Bethany. I'm the girl behind Well of Knits, and I'm just setting up to cast on a new project, and I wanted to spend some time knitting, and I thought that this would be a good time to sit down with you and have a little knit and chat where we just talk about whatever comes out of my mouth. So I've been able to cast off quite a few projects, this one included. So I thought I would treat myself to a cast on, and no better way to do it than with friends, right? So I think I need to double check the pattern that I'm intending on following before I secure my needles, because I feel like my mind is jumping between multiple different sizes and I can't quite remember exactly what this one requires. First, let me stop what I'm doing. Hello. First, I want to talk about what I'm wearing. It is the sweater number 15 by My Favorite Things Knitwear, one that I've been working on for quite a long time, 2 months, but I think that's a really good time to have started and finished a sweater, actually. Especially one with cables such as this, it being my first time doing an all over cabled sweater. I think I can be really proud of that timeline. And while it did feel, it did feel a little long there at the end, I think that when you're working on any project kind of monogamously, it really wears on you, regardless if you enjoy it or not, if you enjoy the color, if everything about it is really working for you. After 2 months, I feel like that's when you're like, okay, I'm ready to just be done with this. So that's kind of how it was for me. I shared in length about this sweater, so I don't really want to go into too much detail, but it is all finally blocked. I washed it and blocked it, and I actually forgot to tell you a little bit of something about this sweater, and it didn't dawn on me until I put it on. Everything about a handmade sweater isn't perfect. There's always something quirky, and I remembered as soon as I put this on this morning that actually I knit the 2 sleeves in different sizes. And you can definitely tell as the wearer can tell that there's something off here. So the first one is knit as it should with the 4, whatever the main needle size is, 4.5, I think. It's knit correctly is all you need to know. But for some reason, after I did the twisted rib, I must have forgotten to switch out my needles and thought that I did. I really did think that I switched them out, because then I knit it with the smaller needle size here, and it's just a little bit of a tighter fit, and it's shorter, noticeably shorter. Again, you might not really be able to tell as the viewer, but as the wearee, it's something that's very noticeable. Not so much that I would go through the trouble of fixing it. You wouldn't think it would really make that much of a difference, because there is only a half size difference between the 2 needle sizes, I think. So that's just another little quirky thing that I forgot to share. If you watched my podcast video where I was proudly talking about how I finished this sweater. I'm proudly wearing it today. Finally, I can have a new finished object to wear in my videos. I feel like I cycle through the same ones over and over again. And I know that I said that I was probably not going to wear it while I was still pregnant, but since I knit the medium size, I'm really happy that I selected that. Normally I go for a small, but with postpartum bodies and everything, you never really know. I was able, with breastfeeding, to get back to my pre-pregnancy weight a year later, but so I was able to still fit into small sweaters and things, but I want to give myself, I don't want to put pressure on myself for that to happen again. It might not happen again. So I want to make sure that the things that I'm making are more realistic for my body. That being said, I have plenty of room. Really, it does cover up the bump. I don't really know if it would stretch out too much. It's not like fully covering the bump. My bump is definitely peeking out still, but it's nice to be able to take advantage of this now too. Yeah, so let's cast on, shall we? Okay, I moved you to make it a little bit more bright and happy. I feel like the other angle was a little too moody in front of the window. So yes, I want to cast on with this green finally. It's a color that I've been wanting to work with. I want a sweater. This is 4-ply merino wool from Woolly Knit in the Campo colorway. It's really, really beautiful, this green. I'm going on the theme of colors out of my comfort zone. I love these colors, but I always have loved these colors. It's not like I don't love color in my life. I do, just garment-wise. And I was on the hunt for some mohair that would work really nicely with this, and I settled on Cadia Concept, my new favorite semi-budget mohair. Normally, I go for drops, and I'm happy with that choice. But you know, it's good to welcome new fibers into your life, and I do feel like I enjoy some of the colors. They have more of what I was looking for recently, Cadia Concept in comparison to Drops Kid Silk. I think it's also just a touch softer, this yarn or this mohair, and I really just love the little toilet paper roll-esque packaging it comes in. I just think it's really handy. I've knit with it in a recent cast off also, which is the Mega Erica jumper by Spectacle Strick. I recently finished that. I think I can afford to cast on something. So that's the yarn. That's what we're working with. I've had the hardest time trying to figure out what sweater I want to knit. I want a green sweater. Very similarly to the yellow, I want a yellow sweater. I just found a sweater that would fit. I had a lot more inspiration for the yellow sweater, I have to say, versus this green. So it's really nice to have yarn in stash, but it is really challenging to figure out patterns sometimes. Usually I pick the pattern first, then I go for the yarn. I'm in a unique situation now with all of my Woolly Knit cones that I wanted to build this stash of yarn that I could, pick and choose from whenever inspiration strikes. But again, that would be leading with a pattern. I do have just this desire though to work with this green because it's spring, and that's just something that I want to bring into my projects. Just springy colors and continue on that train. And so leading with the color I have found to be really, really challenging. And for someone who in this area of her life is extremely indecisive, the last couple of days have been kind of infuriating because I just haven't been able to make a decision. And I'm still not convinced with my decision. But we're going to go on the Spectacle Strick train. We're going to continue with the Spectacle Strick train. I cast off my project with her. I have decided to go with another one of her sweaters that I bought at the same time. I've been going through my patterns recently and just making sure that I have all of them for my emails kind of organized. I know this is the case of Ravelry and what you should be, why Ravelry is so amazing. I don't do that. I don't know why. It's just a habit that I go to the website of the designer and I buy it and then I download it and save it to my phone. But there are a lot of things in my email inbox that I didn't actually save to my phone, but let's get into that in just a second. The Hilda Structure Sweater. I purchased this at the same time as I did the Mega Erica jumper. It was just another one of those options, one of those fun patterns that I was thinking about knitting with this yarn in mind. And yeah, I have it in my library here, and I was thinking, might as well go for a sweater that I already have. Like, I was overwhelmed by all of the choices. You guys sent really great suggestions too in my last video when I was asking about it. And I looked at everything. I suddenly got overwhelmed with choice. Then went into a rabbit hole on my phone, in my email inbox, with just the sheer amount of patterns that I've purchased and have never even attempted to start is just shocking to me. 4.5. Okay, cool. So now I know how to prepare my needles. Let's get started. Before we really get down to chatting about this yarn, I want to tell you about Squarespace, the all-in-one platform to build an online presence. With Squarespace, you can start a website tailored to your needs with the new guided design system, Squarespace Blueprint. They have professionally curated layouts and styling options that would work well for your brand, and they are optimized for every device. With their integrated SEO tools, you show up more often to more people and grow the way you want. I think Squarespace is a must-use platform if you're selling knitting patterns or even just interested in sharing your hard work. I've been working with them for years and I have no complaints so far. So check out squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, use my code to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. So this is going to be interesting because this is requires a little bit of my mind, my brain, and the chart is backwards from how I normally would read. I'm so confused. I probably should have printed this out and first of all, just read through it before I decided to do this video, but we don't plan ahead, apparently. So the interesting thing about this sweater, I really like it because it is a textured pattern, and it kind of reminds me of everything that I love about it. It's not a one-for-one, but it reminds me of everything I love about the rug pattern, that free pattern on Ravelry by Gento. I'm sorry, I don't know who it is who designed the pattern, but I do know that that was one of the first free patterns that I was like, oh my gosh, I should totally knit this when I was just a beginner. But the idea of doing circular sweaters at the time, I think, was intimidating, so I didn't ever do it, but I admire that pattern so much. And the thing that I really like about this one is, yes, that it has a similar kind of rug feel to it. And I was telling you guys that while I really would love, and what has inspired me are like those easy to knit raglan turtlenecks, mainly stockinette, only stockinette really, and just like a high collar kind of thing. I mean, normally that is my jam. I love that kind of stuff, but I feel like I've done it too many times and I'm really starting to branch out, which feels really great, and I'm loving that. But yeah, that's what I was telling you guys, that while that's what inspired this color, and I think those are the main patterns that I've saved, are green sweaters that are just plain stockinette. That's not really what I'm feeling to knit, I don't know. I'm putting so much expectation on whatever the pattern is. So that's kind of when I was like, you know what? You already have this Hilda sweater. You enjoyed the last Spectacle Strick pattern. Why don't you just go for a pattern that you already own? Because there's so many beautiful ones, and it's just insane the amount of choice that's on Instagram, on Ravelry. You could really get lost. I had so many different ideas, but none of them felt right. And like I was saying, even this one kind of doesn't really feel right, but I'm hoping that as I start working on it, I think that the pattern will be a lot of fun to work up, and that will continue to bring me through. So let me tell you about some of the other ones that I had cycled through. One pattern that I had no idea that I was interested in knitting was another My Favorite Things knitwear pattern, was sweater number 19. Became on my radar because when I searched the hashtag, I saw this green version and I thought, oh, wow, yeah, that's really nice. But it is a very oversized, large sweater. But what I really just enjoyed was the cable detail. Oh man, okay, let's see if I can Can I do that? There you go. Look at that detail. It's so gorgeous. I really love it. And I thought that would be fun to knit, but then I just wasn't really feeling the construction all that much. In some pictures, it looks really nice. In other pictures, it looks like, I don't know, it doesn't fit properly, the sweater. You have to factor in the knitting time for that too. So not only the complexity of the stitch, but then also I would want this to be an oversized sweater, like oversized sweater. I want it to envelope me just like it did her. And so that is going to take extra knitting time for sure. So that was a no. I also was looking at the reverse loop sweater by Other Loops. I really liked it because it was mainly pearls, the pearl side of stockinette, reverse stockinette on the main part of the body, and then as a little accent on the bottom of the sleeves and the body, it was stockinette, like normal stockinette. I just don't know. I don't know. That's all I could really tell you is I don't know. There was just a reason that it just didn't feel right to me. The Seaway sweater by Ozetta, I was also interested in, but less. I decided ultimately that one was less of a knit for this green. I just really didn't think that it fit for the green, but I did really love the sweater and I love the construction. That's another cabled knit. It's so different. It does remind me of like rippling water. I'm assuming that's why it's called the Seaway sweater or Seaway pullover. So those are just a few. I was looking at Gregoria fibers as well. And a lot of, again, I found so many patterns that I really, really loved, but just not for the green. And so then I was like, okay, well, what kind of patterns do I have in my library? I told you that I've settled on the Hilda sweater, but that's when I realized it's not even a pattern purchasing problem. I'm sure that there are more that people that have more patterns than I do, but the sheer amount of petite knit patterns that I have never knit is shocking to me. And there are quite a few that I have knit because she is definitely the designer that I have knit the most patterns of. And it still amazes me that I have so much that I haven't even worked up. Before, my stash was just odds and ends of projects that I had finished, of projects past, like a skein here, a skein there, and it got super overwhelming on how to deal with it. So I decluttered. I got rid of everything, and I was definitely vocal about wanting to be a zero stash type of knitter, but I think it's more of a zero scrap type of knitter. I have yet to find a stash project, like a stash busting, scrap busting project that has really spoken to me and made me want to work on it. I love the No Limits sweater by Larka Beggar. I know that people have jars that they put their scraps into and they love collecting them, and eventually they make a mega ball and then they can make a sweater off of that. And I admire those people so much. It's just never something that I am motivated to do. And so I got to a point where I had all of these scraps it was a lot of scraps, and I just decided to donate them and give them to the local Goodwill kind of type thing that we have around here. And I didn't look back, and it felt really great. I like the idea of having a stash for the purpose, like a purposeful stash. Not a stash of pretty skeins that are just odds and ends, one here, one there that I buy. I do really like souvenir yarn, definitely. But I don't often prefer to purchase a skein here, a skein there from dyers that I admire. I'm just more of a unicolor type girl, and I really, really love the woolly knit cones for that, and that I've been able to build up a stash from them. It is really interesting, though, that the idea of having that yarn in stash would make it so much easier to pick out projects, but then with this one to have such trouble trying to figure it out, it's just kind of ironic. No project is ever going to be perfect, and that is the beautiful part of making handmade clothes, right? Not just the little mistakes or anything like that, but the liberty of being able to pick up another project in the future. Just because you work on a project and work up the yarn, I think that has more value. My view is that yarn is not to be coveted, not to be just left on a shelf. We should use it, and we should be excited to work it up. And we can find that perfect project eventually, but then I think also the sweater eventually becomes that perfect project for you. So that's what I'm trying to reassure myself with this one, is that it's never going to feel 100%. I'm one of those people, I don't know about you, do you relate to this, where you almost have like cast on guilt that maybe you should have chose the other one. Maybe that one might work a little bit better. And then it just gets to the point where I don't even work up either one. And then the yarn gets cast aside because I just can't make that decision. And what I'm trying to be more like, and the philosophy I'm trying to adopt is, let's go with what feels right in the moment, what is good enough in the moment. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfect, Instagram worthy type project. You can't have it all thought out and planned from start to finish. Maybe that's like the content making mindset in my head. That's why I feel that way. Work it up now so that it doesn't stay in your stash. You can always buy more yarn later. And honestly, you'll really, really enjoy buying more yarn later. That is what I need to remind myself, I enjoy shopping for yarn, but I also put limits on myself shopping for yarn because I have so much yarn, because I stop myself from casting things on if it doesn't feel absolutely 100% right. Like, there is a chance that I might not enjoy the finished object of this piece. Does the green go with the rug kind of texture? Who knows? I'm not 100% sure, but then I think it will still be really beautiful regardless. And knowing how I felt with this sweater, knowing how I felt with the Mega Erica jumper, there was something about them that I was unsure about, but as I continued to push through the project, I felt fantastic about them. And I really, really love both of them for different reasons. And also for the same reason that they are completely outside of my usual. It's just refreshing. That's what it is. Refreshing. And I think that this green, that's why I chose this green, refreshing. And that's why I chose this pattern. Out there, different, refreshing. So why did I cast on? I mean, I don't have to give you a reason why I cast it on for a new project. I did just cast off 2 in the last month, so I do feel like I have that liberty, but I do have languishing projects, and one that I just cast on that I was telling you I just absolutely could not get enough of, and that is the Ingrid sweater. And I would be perfectly content continuing that sweater. However, I don't have mohair anymore. So I only bought 1 skein of the mohair that I was using, the Ito Sensei, and I just wanted to test it out. It's better that way, I think, sometimes when I'm not 100% sure, just to buy the 1 skein, especially if it's in person in a shop. I think I have more success, or I would have more success finding it again, at least a matching skein, maybe. I don't know what that philosophy is, if that's even true. If that mindset is right, I guess I'm not 100% sure, but I feel like that's a true statement. And so I do need to go to my local yarn store to pick up some more yarn. Because I bought a sweater's quantity for the Sans Serif sweater, that really forest green cable work that I was going to do, and decided against not working it up anymore. I just feel like I shouldn't buy a full sweater's quantity of a mohair if I'm not ready to go for it, So that Ito Sensei is, like I've told you, it's a little bit on the pricey side compared to some of those other brands that I've worked with, Katia Concept in particular, I think it's like a whole $5 more, which is a lot of money if you think about it, to have to buy a sweater's quantity and then decide to abandon the project. So because the yellow sweater is such a sensitive thing, like all of these colorful sweaters, it's very sensitive. I wanted to make sure that I was going to be really happy with how that mohair was working. So I only bought the one skein of the mohair, and I need to go pick up some more. And since I shop for that in person, it's going to be a little while until I go to that shop again. I mean, I guess today would have been a good day because I have free time to go. But then I also did just need the excuse to work this up and get started on it. So just to not have the materials for that for maybe just a couple more days, maybe we'll plan like a fun weekend and go shopping, all of us together as a family. Oh no, I'm sure my husband would love that, going to a yarn store. He can stop in for like 5 seconds, come on. Especially because I know exactly what I want. It's not very dangerous. He can accompany me and not have to worry that I'm going to spend too much time. Although it was so cute. The last time when I went to go buy that yarn, I went with Arthur all by myself. And at the stage of pregnancy that I'm in, that is a feat. That is a big deal. But he was such a good boy. That was what I wanted to tell you. He was such a good boy. He was so well behaved. I was so impressed. I sat him down on the couch at Sip and Knit, which is the store that I go to. And they have little couches and actually like a little coffee corner, which is really sweet. I've never gotten coffee there or anything or sat down and hung out, but it looks like a really great place to do that. And he just sat there while I was looking at the yarn that I was interested in. And he was so well behaved. And I checked out and everything, and he just kept to himself looking at my keys or something. I gave him something to kind of, maybe a magazine to distract him a little bit. And he let me shop all by myself. So it is possible for me to go with him, but you know, I kind of prefer sometimes shopping for things that I really want to take my time and enjoy. I obviously want to do that maybe alone or with an extra pair of hands. Yeah, so I think for the rest of the day, well, besides chores that I need to do, I want to do some baking later today. I need to do lots of laundry. I need to clean the house. So for the rest of the day, apart from doing all of that, I will be knitting on this piece. I think I can get into a nice groove with this one. And I think the subtle texture, because right now it's really not standing out to me, but I have seen pictures on Instagram. You know, obviously the texture is very obvious, but right now, okay, I always just need to look at it in the viewfinder. That's always the issue. Like, once I see it in the viewfinder, I'm like, oh yeah, okay, that's gonna be really cool. It's gonna be really different. I'm looking forward to it. All right, well, thank you guys so much for sitting down and chatting with me and knitting and chatting. This one was a little bit different just because of the nature of the pattern. So I'm interested to see how editing Bethany really made this nice and cohesive, because right now I feel like the potential is just all over the place. So hopefully you enjoyed this video because it was not chaotic. Or maybe you enjoyed this video because of its chaos. If you liked it, though, please give it a like. That would really help me out. Maybe subscribe if you want to stick around. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.